California lefties talking to you about national politics today. The DNC still in a state of denial. Morning Joe, as a result of a huge rating drop since the election, has gone to Mar-a-Lago and kissed the ring. Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. We'll tune into that in a minute, as well as the daily news. But StatPad, why don't you start us off with a little bit of your thoughts of the day? What's going on? It seems to me like I still have not heard anyone calling for cleaning house at the DNC. And maybe that's just everybody being a good soldier. But it's surprising to me that, there's not more talk about really replacing the upper levels of leadership at the DNC.
Right. Yeah. They've dug their own grave, honestly. I mean, when we fight, we win. I guess they decide, oh, that doesn't work. Let's just bend over. That'll fucking work. It's beyond pathetic. And Morning Joe, I didn't know they went to fucking Mar-a-Lago. I heard that they did this, that they basically kissed the ring and they
I think they're worried he was going to come after them, and they're desperate for
God.
ratings. They're really desperate for ratings.
Yeah,
MSNBC
this will
getting
definitely
killed.
fucking help their ratings. Yeah, just fucking kowtowing.
No, people are
surrender to
Bailing
Trump.
out. Yeah, people are bailing out. People are like,
surprised.
"Fuck you." People are like, "Fuck you guys." I'm not watching. I used to watch you every day. I'm still gonna watch them for at least a little while because they get good guests like Ratner's economic analysis and so forth. But MSNBC, man, they've got some real problems over there. It's too bad. They should hire us. We could do a lot better job than the people that they've got in there so far.
Yeah, instead of a couple Republicans heading that show, like for crying out fucking loud.
Yeah,
dude.
Elise Jordan from the W. Bush
Please
administration.
no.
Give me a break,
Please
dude.
fucking no.
They're probably going to
God
give her
damn.
own show. They gave that woman who ran Sarah Palin's campaign, Nicole Wallace, they gave her own show, Deadline White House, 1 to 2 every day, something like that.
God,
it's
why?
unbelievable. Yeah. So should we check in? Let's maybe get that over with. Let's get the Morning Joe stuff over with, just because everyone's kind of talked about it.
So here's where we are. Over the past week, Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed. That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was cheerful, he was upbeat, he seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
Because we're at war.
5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington.
What exactly do they have to worry about when it comes to retribution against Trump? They're both fucking millionaires. Like, what stake does Trump have in the MSNBC to fucking start with, let alone this program? Like,
I think they're
what
just desperate for ratings. They're desperate for ratings.
what in the actual fuck makes them think that going and kissing the ring of Trump is going to gain favor with their audience or boost their ratings or whatever? Fucking MSNBC is a
Well, they just
household
alienated
name.
their audience. They
Of
just alienated
course,
their audience.
Of
Yeah.
course, like what? Like they haven't learned a fucking thing. Do they think Republicans are going to come over to their fucking and start
No, what
watching
they should
their
be doing,
show?
what
They're
they should be doing,
stupid.
instead of look, I like Mike Barnacle. He's a Massachusetts guy, but you got to put him out to pasture and bring in a younger voice. The only millennial they have up there is
Put all
Jonathan
these fucking-
Lemire, and
all
he's a
these fucking
co-host. And then Willie Geist is in his late 40s, so he doesn't count. So they need some millennial voices on there, if not younger. I mean, you guys want to expand your horizons and get some younger people on there as like regular guests. It's
Okay.
not they're not hard to find.
They're not.
I mean, all you got to do is do a little digging online. I mean, the thing is that mainstream media doesn't want to have younger independent media guests.
No, of
That's
course.
why Piers Morgan plays an important role. Given
I
guys
actually-
like us. I hate Piers Morgan, like what
Yeah.
he stands for, but
Yeah.
he does play a very important role.
Mm-hmm. No, he actually has
Been in the country.
on like a diverse array of guests, like an actual fucking socialists on, like people who are far to the left of who the MSNBC fucking caters to.
Yeah.
Like the MSNBCs of the world, I should say. We need more. I don't like Piers Morgan, but we need more of his kind in this world, especially in this media.
Well,
climate.
what if like Joe Scarborough took an interest in indie media and decided I'm gonna use my morning show
I wouldn't hold my
to?
breath.
I know, but I mean, like, there's the missed creativity.
Yes.
Like I know we're in news and everything, but there's still room for creativity, guys. Just think. I mean, it's literally think outside the box. And what are they doing? They're going deeper into the box.
He is
We have
ideologically
been-
opposed to thinking outside the box.
Yeah, definitely.
as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realize it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
As somebody close to Donald Trump told me this past weekend, this is a president who's not seeking re-election, so maybe, just maybe, now could be the time for both parties to get to work. And I know, given the jarring headlines that we read every day, that may seem like a stretch, but think about this. Of the 150 million votes cast, Donald Trump got 50%. Kamala Harris got about 49%. So I don't know. Seems to make
Yeah,
sense for
you don't
leaders
really know
of
much.
both parties to seek common ground, if it's possible at all. And I will tell you, a lot of Democratic leaders
have demonstrated that there is very little common ground between the
Right.
parties, except for serving the capital class and the donors that prop both parties up, as well as funding, making sure that the defense industry is always fully funded more than they ask for. That is the common ground. That is the only common ground.
Yep. That and daylight savings.
we've talked to this past week,
Yeah, yet
since
nothing
the
gets done about
election,
that.
have told Mika and me it's time for a new approach. And when I say top Democrats, I mean top Democrats. They said, we're open, and this was before we talked to Donald Trump. They said, listen, we're open to working with the incoming president if the incoming president is open to working with us.
Yeah,
You
the
just know
question
that,
is,
like-
though, how do we get there?
You can
Hyperbole
tell.
and personal
You can
attacks
tell
will
that he just hit the pen like a few chiefs of the pen, before he came on, because he looks stoned as hell. Like I can just tell he's just feeling himself, having a good time. Doesn't have a fucking.
Got to get
care
high
in
to
the
get
world.
through this. Got to get
God,
high to get through this.
No,
Yeah.
of course. Like I mean,
Not
like
work.
if you're gonna surrender to the fucking enemy, the opposition, which I mean, let's be honest. Like fucking Morning Joe doesn't give a fuck. Like he's a Republican. He's not going to be affected. So it's just like this must be like exciting in a way because it breaks the monotony of simping for the Democratic establishment
Right.
morning after morning.
My hair on fire doesn't work. We've all seen that. What also does not work is threatening political opponents with arrest, harassment, and even jail. That is a failed path. Recent history has proven that impeachments and trials turn those on trial into political martyrs and only make them more popular with the American people. Just ask Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. We know this will be a consequential presidency. The question is whether it will be constructive. It will take a new approach from all sides, from both parties, and a leader who can bring them together. And only time will tell if Donald Trump is that leader.
Time has told. Time has told. Have you looked at his
Oh
cabinet?
my
Do you know
God.
who Stephen Miller is? Do you know who these people are? It's
Where
not
the
just
fuck?
Trump that's coming to power. It's all of these cabinet members too.
Like where?
And to suggest that he's going to bring the country together by doing things like getting rid of the Department of Education, it's absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like anything. They're whores. Anything for a fucking buck. Anything to get the ratings back up. Because you know they've got some fucking executive. I bet you they didn't even have a choice. I bet you they probably didn't even want to do it. But their boss was like, we need something big to get back in the ratings because everyone's tuning out.
Yeah.
And I bet you they're losing ratings because MSNBC was touting Kamala's strategy big time. Playing to the center. Playing to anti-Trump Republicans, trying to, basically taking the progressive left for granted, which is ultimately why she lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I just did the numbers. By the way, Mika was off. It's not 80 million voters for Trump. It was 76.7 if you round. And then Kamala got a little over 7 million fewer votes than Biden did in 2020.
Yeah.
And she only lost by 2.6 million votes.
Yeah.
So
no,
if she had just gotten half of that gap, then she would have won. But she didn't have a fan base. She didn't, and she laughed at weed, and she wasn't really a friend of the progressives. I mean, it's what you get. This is what you get when you don't build from the ground up. Like so many lefties talk about building from the ground up. People who are going to be loyal to you from start to finish. And she never did that. It's like, do you not know the culture of California? And obviously she doesn't.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if this is moves from on high, from the actual network itself, because the network sees that they're losing ratings, and then that translates to, our propaganda isn't getting to the minds of as many people, so we gotta do something big. Because there's a reason why, like you said. They've been touting the Kamala strategy for this entire campaign cycle and whatnot, kowtowing to centrists, going more right in the campaign and whatnot. That fucking failed. There's a reason why people are tuning out, and and they're fucking desperate. They're like, we need to keep on pushing this. That's
the word is desperate. That's totally the word. Desperate.
It's super desperate. We need to keep on making people think that moving to the right and trying to court Republicans is still the strategy to go, even though it's fucking not.
The fucking market-driven media, man. This is the for-profit motive hard at work within our media environment, and it shouldn't be this way, guys.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be this way. For all of those listening, if you want a rabbit hole to go down, get to know the Telecom Act of 1996. Fucked everything up.
Yeah.
For us, we also let him know that we will continue to speak truth to power and push back hard when called
Except when it
for,
comes to progressives.
as we have with all presidents.
But not
Don't be
the
mistaken.
candidates.
We're not here to defend or normalize Donald Trump.
He's so stoned,
We're
I can
here
tell.
to report on him and to hopefully provide you insights
Is weed legal
that are
in
going
New
to
York?
better equip all of us in understanding these deeply unsettling times
Yeah.
And I am reminded of what Marty Barron, legendary
That's kinda
editor,
funny.
told his Washington Post reporters
Mika's
back
like,
in the
is
first
her name
term.
Mika Brzezinski?
We're not
Yeah.
going to war.
She's just trying to keep a straight face because I think she knows too. Like,
That he's stoned.
yeah, she because like she kind of made a face when there was like too.
Well, she
long
also
of a
look at her
pause
face
there.
right now. She looks like she can't believe what she's doing.
Yeah,
she's like, I
that's
can't believe I'm fucking doing this.
Yeah, that probably plays.
She
into
hates
it as
him.
well. Of course.
No,
Who
dude,
the
they
fuck
were
doesn't?
saying like they believe he's fucking Hitler and that the minions are Nazis. Maybe they're worried also
Right.
that Trump could go after them.
Yeah, and also,
mean,
it also-
personally.
it makes me wonder like how much of this is like them going along with it because all they know about Trump is what they cover, and they don't really follow much of it outside of their job, and like maybe they're like, oh, I mean, maybe like this is the way to go, just like go kiss Trump's ring and play him up or whatever, or at least like see if we can establish like a civil discourse about this and that or whatever, like without realizing that civil discourse is basically like poison to a lot of terminally online right, as well as people who are in Trump's orbit. Like they don't give a fuck. Like they're all fascists. So who knows?
We're going to work. So let's go to work now with David Ignatius. David, first of all, I loved, and I told
Go
Marty,
to war,
I
you
loved,
piece of shit. All right, so that's enough of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just whatever.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
footage that everyone's shown. It's like I tried to watch this morning, and they're acting like nothing's changed. And I went on social media yesterday, and everybody that I saw was just like, "Fuck this show! I'm not watching anymore." I'm getting a new morning routine. I mean, people are just all about hating on Morning Joe. By the way, have you gotten a Blue Sky account yet?
I just downloaded it. I haven't set up an account yet, but I'm definitely going to be primarily posting there and whatnot. I'm on Threads, but that's kind of linked to Instagram like a bit too tightly, so it's like more of like an extension of my Instagram. So it Threads isn't where it should be. Yeah, look at this.
Fuck you to Joe Scarborough, Mikazinski, and the entire Morning Joe crew.
Yeah,
What else can one say?
yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, here, what's this one? Oh, that's probably
Just like a meme. I'll watch
yeah,
it.
it's a meme. No, yeah, it's just is unwatchable this morning. I mean, yeah, we're
bye.
watching Morning Joe again. Adam Kinzinger, cowards.
Yeah.
Adam Kinzinger, wow.
Yeah.
Trump's victory is so complete. Morning Joe has fully surrendered. Both hosts went to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. Astonishing.
Buck
Yep.
Sexton, gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
Posted by Brian Stelter of CNN fame. Yeah, God, I mean, whatever it takes. I mean, people really shouldn't be watching fucking Morning Joe to begin with because they serve the fucking capital class like we've talked about before.
I
and
know.
they try to keep
I
them
know, and
kowtowing
it's so
to
sad. It's
Republicans.
so sad that like that's
pathetic.
the closest thing that we have to a major media outlet. Like TYT is such a joke.
Mhm.
And with Anna Kasparian going to the right now, Jenk's starting to play to the right. I saw the Vanguard guys go live earlier today and cover it.
Yeah.
And it's such a disgusting what's happening to our
Mhm.
country's media landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that, Midas Touch, like we talked about, is doing some stuff, but
Midas
I don't
Touch
really
is great.
see.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody really coming in and supplanting TYT, which is what I think needs to happen.
No. Yeah.
I think TYT's got to go.
I
man.
hope.
That
I hope
place
majority
is so
report
stale.
takes their place eventually at some point. I got some. Like,
Yeah,
a
what
good
do you got?
number of viewers coming in. Thank you guys for joining, and make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss the shorts that I churn out pretty often, and also it notifies you when we go live. Talking about Morning Joe surrendering to Trump and going to Mar-a-Lago and to kiss the ring, and it's just beyond pathetic, and it's also desperate on behalf of them because they know that they're losing viewers, and because they're losing viewers, their message of centrism is king is not getting out to as many people. Like they know that like the reason people are tuning out is because there's like their strategy of Democrats and their cheerleaders on MSNBC of playing more to the right, becoming more like Republicans, isn't landing with people, and it shouldn't land with people because it doesn't fucking win. Democrats can't win that way. You like moving right, you're always going to be a loser because like what's the end? It's like we've talked before about this in previous streams. It's like, do you just need to copy the entire GOP agenda? Do you need to start reading like Hitler's speeches and just pass it off as the new Democratic playbook? Because the it's a dead end. Like fascism is a fucking dead end. It's like you need to counter that from a progressive standpoint that actually challenges capital, but that won't be allowed because the Democratic Party doesn't challenge capital. Both parties serve capital, and it's just
right.
like an endlessly frustrating thing. And all we can do is just sit here and talk about it. It's a fucking merry-go-round, and it has been for years now.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just got to prepare ourselves for 2 or 4 years from now because things are going to get really bad, and there's going to be a huge demand for the Democratic Party to step up. They'll probably win no matter who they run because it'll be one of those elections where the presidency and maybe both houses of Congress are handed to them on a silver platter of conservative failure. I don't know how anybody thinks these next 4 years are going to go well. There's no fucking way that these 4 years are going to go well. I mean, unless some Republicans grow a conscience here, I don't see these mass deportations not happening. They're definitely going to happen, and they're going to be gruesome. He's going to use the military, dude. He's going to use the military inside the borders to. He's going to use the military on domestic citizens of the United States, which is,
of course,
unprecedented.
Yeah.
Since the Civil War.
Yeah. No. Of course. Megan says gritty pinned post. Which pinned post are you referring to, sweetheart? Because mine on Twitter's been the same forever. It's just promoting my channel. Wow, 8 people all of a sudden. What the hell? Thank you for joining. Like I stated before, hit the notification bell so you don't miss all my shorts and whenever I go live. We try to do this every Tuesday at least. Sometimes we do Thursdays. We do a little short stream. Try to do twice a week, but. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any other shows like this, like Morning Joe, like saying, "Well, I guess we just need to bow down to Trump now." Like what kind of environment do we live in where we don't have more prominent cable networks and whatnot challenging power? Because that should be their role. And like, if power funds both major parties, it's like. If you can't beat them, join them. That doesn't sound.
That's
very
what it feels like
to me.
That's what it feels like. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Because if you can't beat them, join them. All right, let's get into another big name Democrat who's going to tell us why things are the way that they are, or will he? Hakeem Jeffries, master of evasion, as you will be reminded
This
of.
is apparent
Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries
I was watching this at
is
the
our
gym.
special guest right now. He also has a new book that was timed to come out here after the election, The ABCs of Democracy. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Good evening, Ari. Great to be with you.
Great to have you. First, why do you think your party lost last week?
Well, listen, I think we're going to engage in a period of candid and comprehensive and clear-eyed conversations as House Democrats.
Strike 2.
And that is required of the moment. People are understandably, across the country, tens of millions of Americans frustrated and concerned and deeply troubled by the results in terms of what happened last Tuesday. And as a Democratic Party, we're going to have to make sure that we make clear, one,
so what's the answer?
That we will work with the incoming administration.
Answer the question.
God,
why'd you lose?
Why did you lose, Hakeem?
For hardworking American taxpayers, but strongly disagree and push back against the extremism whenever necessary. That will be the foundation
okay, hold
for how
on.
we move forward.
Hold on.
We will have an after-action analysis so that...
Do you think he actually knows the answer why, and it just is refusing to answer, or is
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
Yeah, I think he knows exactly why, and he just doesn't want to embarrass the party.
Yeah, no.
These guys are smarter than they let on. Like,
No,
they
of
have
course.
consultants and stuff who know the analytics, know that, like, there wasn't good turnout, and there wasn't good turnout because of all the things that we've talked about being wrong with Kamala and Kamala's campaign, and the sexist and racist political context of national American politics. It's true.
That we can figure out collectively what happened on Election Day, why did it happen, and how do we prevent that type of adverse
So is he admitting that he has no
electoral
idea?
result from ever happening again, beginning, of course, with the off-year elections in 2025 and the midterm elections
He's
in
suggesting that they haven't really figured it out yet, or they haven't discussed it and agreed upon it yet, so they aren't prepared to come out with some sort of unified statement about what went wrong with this election. It's just kind of delaying
Delaying responsibility.
and also putting on ice this idea of cleaning house at the DNC.
Of course.
That's what I think he's trying to do. Is he's trying to put water on that flame that exists right now on the left to clean house at the DNC.
Of course,
2026.
which needs to happen. I mean, you don't even have to
I hear
be
you on
like
that.
a progressive to understand that house needs to be cleaned at the DNC or the Democratic Party. Like it's just a whole host of things. Honestly, you can point to a whole lot of different factors, but ultimately, like everybody who oversaw the Harris campaign and the strategy of Democrats and the messaging of Democrats, the narratives that were spun, the rhetoric that was iterated time and time again. All of them need to go, and they're not ready to do that. They don't want to accept that they're the problem, or that they need to change strategy, or that there are some people that are just toxic.
It's almost
to the party.
childish.
Yeah, no, of fucking course. It's like they're not going to fire their consultants, because their consultants are likely what will give the party a whole bunch of fucking funding, for crying out loud. No, I didn't see what Shankiger said about that, Megan. I'll have to look on X or Twitter.
It sounds like you're looking forward and leaving time and space to do the actual analysis, so I understand that. But there are a couple basic theories kicking around, and I have you here, so I want to ask you. I mean, theory one, of course, is that this was an anti-incumbent economy election, that there was a backlash to prices and inflation, which is as much about the macro environment as something great that your opponents did. The second theory that has gotten a lot of attention, including from Pelosi and others, as you probably know, is that Biden stayed in too long and you didn't have time to get the ideal candidate.
That's true.
That's it.
And even that the party should have
a
looked
big thing.
beyond the Biden-Harris administration. And the third theory is that there's something more out of step or wrong with the Democratic Party's core values and pitch to voters right now. I get that you're going to go through all the evidence over time, but can you give us a peek into this? You are a leader of the party. Do you think this is a inflation thing? Or a wrong candidate thing,
damn well
or
why they
maybe
lost.
there needs to be larger soul searching?
I think it's definitely clear that the economy, inflation, and to a lesser extent, issues connected to the border played an
who talks like
outsized
this?
role in how many voters made their electoral decisions, particularly as it relates to
talks way too
their
much with his
support
hands.
for the former president. I don't think there's enough evidence at the House level or at the Senate level to suggest that this was an anti-incumbent thing, when 90%
Bullshit.
of our 31
Bullshit. No,
battleground
this was 100% an anti-incumbent thing. When the
Yeah,
the
I
fact
don't know
that
what he's talking about.
the fact that Kamala Harris refused to distance herself from
Right.
fucking Joe Biden is a
Yep.
big part of what turned off a lot of voters to her. Like for
No,
crying-
right-wing media was putting that View appearance on loop after she made
Yes.
it. She's like, see, it's basically
They-
like voting for Biden. If
they
you vote
got-
for Kamala, you're basically voting for Biden again. You're voting for more of the same.
They got so much fucking mileage out of that, and
Yep.
it cost her. Like, I understand you're the vice president, and you don't want to throw your fucking, your president under the bus, the person that you share the fucking White House with, or whatever the fuck. But like, for crying out loud, you need like offer something at least better than him, like go farther, like while also championing his fucking positions. Fuck, and the way he talks, I like just expand that a little bit. Like, it's one thing to talk with your hands and like make points and whatnot, but when you're like saying fucking
On
virtually,
TV.
when you're saying virtually nothing, talking like this with your hands, you're like
It's a
when
distraction.
you're not making any fucking actual points at all, You're just an you're just an overcoached, polished corporate goon, and I mean that's to be said about the party leaders to begin with. But fuck me, dude.
Outran the national environment and are on their way back to the United States House of Representatives. That's not an anti-incumbent wave, because the overwhelming majority of them would have been swept away. And that's a credit to our incredible incumbent frontline House members who connected with the people that they represent, have a vision for the future, focused on the kitchen table pocketbook issues that matter, and have been reelected. I think it's also fair to say that when you look at the battleground situation that occurred at the Senate level, and far be it from me to speak for my colleagues in the United States Senate, but it is clear that you had multiple
Thank you for joining.
battleground
Please subscribe.
states where Democratic incumbents, or in the case of Alyssa Slotkin and Ruben Gallego, 2 House members, we're very proud of them, were elected to the United States Senate on a very tough night. So I think we have to make sure that we are clear-eyed and authentic and unadulterated in how we assess what happened, so that we can engineer a comeback on behalf of the American people and protect the things that matter, our American values, protect our institutions, protect our freedoms, and protect, you know, the way of life.
Say
in
protect
terms
one
of the
more
middle
time.
class and all those who aspire to be part of it.
I don't think of
But
when
we
I think of
also,
Democrats, I don't think
can't be
authentic.
hysterical
No, they're just bad actors.
No, they
in our
are.
assessment that this was some anti-incumbent wave that knocked down Democrats all across the country, when the facts actually say something very different.
Yeah, I appreciate you engaging in the conversation
lost
there.
the Senate.
And you're certainly making a fair point, right? That Donald Trump improved his numbers. There are people who look at that and say, how, with everything exposed about him, could he improve his numbers at all? That said,
It's because
it wasn't some Reagan-esque
it's fucking because Donald Trump didn't win as much as the Democrats fucking lost.
Right.
They were expected they weren't
Trump gained 2 million votes.
Yeah, the Senate gained Republican seats. There are a couple seats that the Democrats should have at least kept or flipped, but they weren't, even though they weren't projected to win the Senate anyway. Like this was like, you did not excite voters. Turnout wins elections, and you didn't offer anything. You didn't people are not going to vote for the status quo for crying out loud. Like it's one thing to harp away at Trump, but if you don't harp away on the issues where it fucking matters, the fact that he would be so much worse for the economy, and you actually have a plan, like a better plan that was being put forth, one that's a lot more fucking comprehensive, like people see through that. Like they're fucking struggling, they're fucking hurting. So this is entirely a Democratic Party failure.
I think MSNBC might have taken a hit in ratings because their post-election analysis has not included a whole lot of talk about turnout. And I think their audience, their viewership, knows better. Like, the viewership knows that turnout was the reason why Kamala lost this election, why all of those Trump is gaining numbers are skewed, because Kamala got 7 million fewer votes this election than Biden got 4 years ago.
And
we haven't
about
heard one comment about turnout. Not one comment. So we got Carville next. So let's see if either of these guys talk about turnout.
And some of your team did get back up and still have the support of the voters. I want to play some of what your caucus, your House Democratic members have said.
If the goal is to win elections in the real world, where it matters, then you have to appeal to working class people of color who historically have been the base of the Democratic Party.
I think they just felt there needed to be a change like other countries did. So I think it's just a matter of getting back to that core populist, economic, progressive message.
I get why people are exhausted and disheartened. It is tough to lose an election.
The cost of living, the cost of groceries, people are feeling that pain coming out of COVID, and so we have to do better.
Are you backing today the idea that the party needs to be even more working class, populist, prioritize both in substance and in messaging on that, and that the party lost sight of that to some degree?
It's clear that housing prices are too high, gas prices have been too high, and groceries have been too high. We have to bring down the the high cost of living for everyday Americans.
How you gonna do that
and make
now that you have no
that we
political
are
power?
there for people who are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. That's the clear lesson in terms of additional decisive action that we need to work on with the fierce urgency of now, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans. We have to deal with the fact that for far too many people, the great American middle class dream has either slipped away or is viewed as being out of reach. And we've got to
whose fault is
address
that?
decisively. All of my colleagues in different ways have said exactly just that. And we will drill down in that particular area. But I think there's actually unity in that regard. And that is something that we plan to work on and work on together, maybe tackle with the Trump administration if they are serious about dealing with these cost of living issues. But we will certainly forcefully talk about it and present solutions to address it.
We have that view from the top of the Democratic Party. Now next we turn to someone who has been inside these battles for decades,
Before we
James
get
Carville.
to Carville, I even posted on Twitter about this. Like Dean Phillips, the guy who was actually running in a primary against Biden this election cycle, posted to all the progressives fleeing Twitter. I'm not going to call it X. How in the world will we understand how half our country feels if you only congregate with the like-minded? Speaking about people going over the blue sky. That's what got us into this mess in the first place. So stick around, engage in some debate, make your case, learn different perspectives. And I quote to him saying, I am begging and pleading with Democrats to finally understand that the terminally online right does not believe in civil engagement nor civil discourse, especially like the farther fucking right you go. The Trump.
They don't care. They don't want to work with you.
No.
They want to beat you.
Yes.
They don't want to work with
give
you.
a fuck.
You're the enemy to them.
Yes. That's exactly.
You're the enemy to them.
Got
it's not complicated. Stop trying to reason with someone that keeps hitting you in the face. It's called an abusive relationship.
Bingo.
All right. James Carville supposedly comes around in this one.
Selection debrief.
Oh, oh man. Oh God.
A sizable majority voted for abortion rights, but also for Donald Trump. There are many notes in the election results. We regroup, we assess. Here on The Beat, we always follow the facts. And tonight we turn to a legendary political strategist, James Carville.
You're one of the good ones, Megan, don't worry.
Season, first loudly saying what
Benjamin
Democrats
Button, everybody.
much later on in the year. As you know, James, you'd early on publicly said maybe they needed to look beyond Biden to the top of the ticket. And you've said other things people like and don't like. Welcome back.
Thank you. Because I'll say some things people don't like again tonight, but that's just the nature of business. Glad to be back.
Well, here's the first question, and it's very similar to the question I opened with Leader Jeffries, James. Why did the Democrats lose last week?
I think there are a number of reasons, but there was a pivotal moment in the campaign. That was on The View. When the vice president
I'm glad that everybody, like even James Carville fucking agrees, dude.
So
it's funny. You had in the previous second, so just before the commercials, Hakeem Jeffries is telling you that it wasn't an incumbency election, an anti-incumbency election, and now Carville is telling you the exact opposite.
Yeah, that's crazy.
On a long track. And that's the money question. And she said, I can't think of anything. And of course, the Trump people had it up as an ad 6 hours later. And when you're in a country that wants something different, you got to give them something different. And we had a
That's why she fucking took his place in the in the first place.
That were very articulate.
Well, it's funny. It's too bad because she was something different. She could have been something different, but she never. And this is kind of the story with Kamala Harris, is she's never taken control of her own career. She just sails the winds and goes which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
And that's not leadership.
No, it's not.
That's not leadership. A good president, a good leader sometimes says, you know, I know this isn't popular, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's one thing to be like someone who doesn't make it about themselves and doesn't really have like the qualities of a leader per se. Like Bernie Sanders championed the fact that he was people powered. Like not me, us. That was a big tagline of his campaigns for president and whatnot. And that actually it actually hit because people believed it, because he was actually speaking to the issues of the people. Like it's one thing to not be like a leader in that regard, but be a figurehead that actually champions the issues. But Kamala Harris didn't have that at all. So like, because she didn't have that, the least she could have done is make herself seem to be an actual leader that can move the party forward in the way that it needs to be moved.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
He was very able to distill and put a message out, but we were never allowed to choose that. And we were just where we were. And that was not a good answer. And people will come back and say, well, she did a lot of things right. Yeah, if you do 49 things right, but you do the big thing wrong, it haunts you in politics. It's a business where some things stick harder than other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's a point that's very much a right now point, James. What you said about Biden, those numbers, her being partly arguing for change, but being tied to Biden. There's a larger thing that happens, as you know, after every election, which is everybody says the party should do what they were saying anyway. Meaning the liberals want it more left, the centrists want it more center, yada, yada. I want to play Bernie Sanders, who on the one hand has...
Oh, you love Bernie, don't you, Jim?
But on the other hand, maybe...
Yeah, look at James' face change. Bernie.
Answer every time, but here's
a
what
better-looking bald man.
If you're an average working person out there, do you really think that the Democratic Party is going to the mats, taking on powerful special interests and fighting for you? I think the overwhelming answer is no, and that is what has got to change. When you have millions and millions of people working for starvation wages, you got to speak to that reality.
Like I will never
Hold on,
forgive.
Oh, sorry, I'll pause it.
It wasn't done enough, and you are, James.
Yeah, I'll just never forgive the DNC for shivving Bernie Sanders, especially on the fact like you look at his appearances on right-wing media or like on the Joe Rogan podcast, like who's watched by primarily right-wingers and whatnot, or on Theo Vaughn or whatever the hell Lex Friedman, like people in the comment section support him. Like this guy's one of the good ones. I actually like this guy.
When I was doing my
solo, does that tell you?
When I was doing my solo stream last week, I got several people that voted for Bernie the first time, but then voted for Trump this time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, at some point they were open-minded. They're just all anti-establishment.
Yeah.
Big-time anti-establishment. And maybe that is the variable that we're not talking about collectively as a society, is the Bernie vote, right? Because the Bernie people came out for Biden 4 years ago, and that's the people. That's the only reason. That's got to explain a big chunk of these 7 million votes that she didn't get.
The discrepancy is there. I fully believe that's it.
It's almost 7.2 million votes that she didn't get that Biden got 4 years ago.
Yeah, she didn't. Like Bernie actually spoke to economic issues in a way that resonated with people. She didn't whatsoever.
And he also campaigned with Biden, and she didn't make any outreach to.
Of course,
she didn't make any outreach to Biden. I mean, or to Bernie.
Yeah.
I mean, Bernie spoke at the convention, but that was really it. AOC spoke at the convention, but there's no nurturing of the base here.
Yeah,
there's not even like throwing them a bone. Like, when was the last time progressives got anything they wanted?
No, of course. I wouldn't be surprised if like her advisors during the campaign were like, "Oh no, Bernie's poison. Don't campaign with the squad." Like,
right, I'm sure. Yeah, because they were all Biden, Clinton people.
Yeah.
And they all hate Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, I never like to talk about, and if I didn't know you better, I wouldn't talk about what could go on your tombstone, hopefully many decades from now. But it might be, it's the economy stupid, among other things. So you, as Mr. It's the economy stupid, was this an economy election? And if so, is Sanders right that on populist, working class, kitchen table issues, the Dems didn't do enough?
Well, what he is not right about is Democrats have done a number of things for working people. I mean, Obamacare expanded health care for 23 million more people than had it before. A lot of things in President Biden's Build Back Better program created millions of jobs for working people.
These were half measures,
I think
dude.
Sanders has some of a point here. And that is, there were things we could have run on harder that have effect. The minimum wage. It passes everywhere by 70%. I mean, I know that President Biden was for it and Harris was for it, but we didn't put it front and center. What about
That's
taxing
right.
incomes over $400,000 and taking that money and putting it in a first-time home buyer's mortgage relief fund? I mean, there were things that Senator Sanders would favor that we could have put more front and center. And there are a lot of things that are just popular.
Witnessing history right here.
They're popular with every kind of Democrat in the country. They also happen to be popular with independents and even some Republicans.
Bingo.
And
Hello. Where's this guy been?
A popular thing was not continuing the Biden administration. That was clearly not what people wanted. He's a great guy, but people didn't want more of that, and that's what we gave them.
Damn, he's
James, you came
right.
around. It only took you a week and a half, but he came around.
No, it only took him several decades. But
yeah, right, exactly.
God, yeah.
But at least he finally did get there with the political analysis, because the political analysis is undeniable. I mean, I'll show you the results here. So I'll just show them to you really quick. So this is Kamala, all right? She got a little bit over 74 million. Trump got 76 and 2/3, all right? So let's just call it 76.7. So she lost basically by 2.6 million votes. A little bit less than 2.6 million votes is what she lost by.
Right.
This is 2020, and so there's the 7 million vote difference. It's actually more than 7 million, 7.2 million fewer votes that Kamala got to Joe Biden. And then Trump gained. Trump got 2 million more votes, 2.4 million more votes this time, rounding really to 2.5 million more votes this time than he did in 2020.
Right.
So where is, it's not a whole lot of flip-floppers. It's probably a lot of new votes, because we've got a lot of Gen Zers who are voting for the first time, and they seem thrilled to vote for Trump because he's funny.
Yeah, I'm letting that sink in. It's funny. I'm just going to talk to you really directly. It's like the biggest thing ever happened. You got rid of a sitting incumbent president after he'd won the primary. It's never happened before. And the reason was that everybody from Pelosi on down had absorbed the fact that he was going to lose big, so you had to do something big. And then you land on, as you just argued, his literal replacement and a message that was still very much tied to Bidenism. So was that almost all baked in? I mean, how would you have changed that? Only had there been a different candidate?
Yeah, okay, so he gets out on July 21st. Harris has to keep the campaign headquarters in Wilmington. She keeps Biden's campaign manager. She keeps the entire staff. All right? That's a hard thing to do, because they're not going to. Jen Dillon, no matter Mally Dillon's not going to attack Biden. Biden is. I wouldn't no more now would attack Clinton. But each thing is different, and we didn't have a choice. So, like I said, we didn't get to kick the tires. We didn't get to look under the hood. We didn't get to, look at the trim.
It was all done really, really
quick. We were
quick.
just given the keys at full sticker price.
Well, he took his time getting out, too.
Exactly.
If you recall, it was like 2 or 3 weeks before he finally dropped out.
Yeah.
He dragged his feet on dropping out. He should have dropped out the day after that debate.
Exactly. I mean, that would have made it maybe would have made a difference, but honestly, he should have dropped out before the primaries even started. Like, of course,
he should never have run for re-election.
Like there, like
should have been an open primary, but that would have been the bold choice. And since when does the Democratic Party ever make the bold choice?
Right, until it's too late, I guess.
Right.
Fucking God.
Choice. But by July 21st, we probably didn't have much of a choice. And Ari, the thing that I will believe to pass my dying day is this. The talent level in the Democratic Party is utterly breathtaking. I would have given anything if we could have gotten 5 or 6 of these people out on the track, let them run around, let people.
What the hell are you talking about, James?
And just see.
You think they're winners, man?
When they look at us, they think we're an urban old party that's attached to some exotic positions, which is not the case of many Democrats out there in the country that are very skilled and would have made a great primary and a lot of fun, and I think would have done the party brand a lot of good.
Now we have something very special.
All right, James Carville.
Wow, like he actually
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, sounded much better than fucking Hakeem Jeffries. That's for goddamn sure.
I mean,
I can't believe they want to make that guy the fucking House Speaker. It's like, why? What the fuck? Why? There's nobody in the House that can do. But of course, I already know the answer. I'm being facetious. Yeah. God. There's
Yeah,
so
it's,
many better
I mean,
choices.
it's just, but it's a testament to where MSNBC is at, that they think they can just lean on guys like James Carville for their analysis and nobody's going to give them any shit. It's like, this guy's a dinosaur. Like, do you think people don't understand what Bill Clinton did to this country and how he screwed over, Al Gore with his getting blowjobs in the Oval Office? Like, you could make a very good argument that Americans' empire was brought down by an overweight Jewish intern giving our president blowjobs in the Oval Office. You could make a very good argument that that brought us down, because there's no way Gore loses that election if that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and that means
legacy.
we don't get W. That means we don't get W, and then the world is definitely a better place. Maybe Al Gore would have had the sense of mind to have airport security run by the government, not the airlines, when he took office, which would have prevented 9/11.
Of course, yeah.
W doesn't get nearly enough shit for 9/11.
No, of course.
It's weird. It's like he was etched in our memory as like this symbol of America, like the privileged cowboy. It was so weird.
Yeah, at least a more like mainstream.
This guy's an Andover and Yale grad.
It's like at least in more like aristocratic circles and more like mainstream sentiments and whatnot, because like there are definitely like there is a very popular meme out there that's just simply Bush did 9/11 and like that. I mean, that alone says a lot, because it's, I mean, like if you like deconstruct it and just go piece by piece, like kind of he they were warned and nothing was done about it. But yeah, no, regardless, I digress. We can sit here all day about how the 2000 election royally fucked this country over for decades, but
because Gore would have brought us back to the left a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree, and actually like gotten us a head start on fucking mitigating climate change.
Right. And maybe taking on maybe improved healthcare. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? He would have been better than W. He wouldn't have gone into Afghanistan. He definitely would not have gone into Iraq.
Yeah.
He might have gone into Afghanistan, but he wouldn't have gone into Iraq. No way. No way.
Of course, yeah. Because 9/11 was the excuse for Iraq.
Do you want to do this Nancy Pelosi interview, or is there something else on your mind you want to talk about?
That's the only other thing that comes to mind right now. There is something about Cenk Uygur I was just looking at that seems pretty interesting that he's been doing on Twitter. He's been engaging with not only Elon Musk but Donald Trump Jr. as well, which has been really interesting to say the least. But for this Pelosi thing, are there highlights we can look at, or is it just like a full on discussion?
Hold on, if you give me a second, I can look at.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, by the way, Megan. That's actually like a really neat thing, and I kind of don't like the fact that Cenk Uygur is being dragged for it right now. I'll say that before we get into that. Do you know who she was speaking to, Pelosi?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the video. I've got it right here. Like, let's just listen to the first bit because it's pretty.
I'm down.
Let's just listen.
We'll do it at like 1.5 speed. Just
we'll
dissect it. New York Times.
Be a huge disappointment for you and the Democrats. How are you feeling?
New York Times.
Well, on the presidential level, I feel sad for the American people. The policies that have been put forth by the president-to-be are some that are very, shall we say, if his first term is any indication, it's going to favor the very rich at the expense of working families. From a political standpoint, I'm very proud of Kamala Harris. I think she did an excellent job putting forth an agenda for the future, a person that has not only a to-do list, but a substantial to-do list for the American people. And she gave us hope with dignity and grace, and I'm very proud of her candidacy. The people have spoken. Donald Trump has won, and now we will have a peaceful transfer of power in our country.
You were at Harris's concession speech on Wednesday afternoon. Have you spoken to her since the election, and what was that conversation like, and what is she feeling at this moment?
Yes, I've spoken to her. I've told her how proud we are of her, thanking her for, again, giving us hope with great dignity. Obviously, it takes time to absorb an election. It takes actually a while to understand how certain things have happened, but they did happen.
No,
and
it doesn't.
She accepts that, and she's my personal friend as well.
Not when you lose 7 million votes.
For me, it was emotional to have the conversation in a way that was praiseworthy of her patriotic leadership, but sad for her personally.
When you say emotional, what does that mean exactly?
Oh, God, more
It's
feelings.
sad. We're talking about the presidency of the United States. We're talking about a person who is a good person, a person who cares about people. That's why she's in the civic arena. And then politically, very astute. You don't get to be the nominee of the party unless you know your politics. But we are on the verge.
I don't know about
I know
that,
that we had a very
Nancy.
red outcome yesterday, but we are on the verge of perhaps winning the House and making Hakeem Jeffries the Speaker of the House. There are a few votes to be counted in Arizona, Oregon, and California, and we're optimistic that we can win.
You might win the House, but you definitely lost the presidency, you lost the Senate, and there is a good chance that the GOP remains in control in the House. There's already been a lot of parsing of what happened, and I know that there's going to be a lot to come. But what is your main takeaway from that terrible night for the Democrats?
Well, it was not a good night for the Democrats, but as I say, I don't accept right now, and we won't even know by the time this goes to print what the outcome is of the House races. But understand this, the big assault that was made, this big red map across America, we lost 2 of our incumbents. Maybe 3. We're still waiting to hear from one in Alaska. But that was a big save. I mean, our what we call our frontline candidates, by and large, won in places where the Republicans were raging with their vote for the president and the Senate. The House members did very well.
Gonna talk
As
about
I say,
the
it's
House.
still a possibility that we can win. But just that it's a possibility tells you that the House ran against the tide. Already we have started our organizing for the future. We don't organize over what happened. We organize about what comes next.
But I do think it's important.
That is absolutely ridiculous. What did she just say? We don't worry about. Let's hear it again.
The tide. Already we have started our organizing for the future.
Listen to this.
We don't agonize over what happened. We organize about what comes next.
We don't agonize about what happened.
But I do think it's important.
We organize towards what happens next. So you don't reflect on a failure so that you can learn from it? You don't reflect on a failure. I mean, the first part, like the Alcoholics, Anonymous approach is the first step to dealing with your problem is to recognize that you have a problem.
Yeah, no kidding. Holy crap! Like to bring a sports analogy into it. It's like, what when a team drops out like during the fucking playoffs, they get defeated and whatnot. They're not going to take a look at their tapes and see what went wrong, what could be improved on and shit. They're not going to trade out fucking bad players that aren't. They're not going to drop players that have been failing the team and shit. Like what? Do fucking dynasties just move forward without reflection on their performances and shit? It's like, holy mother of God, dude. Oh, my God.
To discuss a little bit about what you think could have been done differently. And a lot of the discussion has centered around how much President Biden's delay in deciding to leave the race following the debate in June hurt the VP's campaign. You were very involved in encouraging him to leave. And there's reporting that you were concerned about him being the candidate well before the debate in June. And polls were showing that the American people were very concerned about President Biden's age and his ability to lead into another term. Do you wish you'd gotten involved earlier than you did?
No, well, the president made his own decision to step aside and to endorse Kamala Harris. He made a patriotic, selfless decision and for which we are all very grateful. I think that was one of the reasons we were able to save so many House seats.
The answer, Nancy, is yes.
Patriotic.
This is not a complicated question here. This is what I'm talking about, learning from your mistakes. Yeah, you should have gotten involved sooner. You should have told Biden to get the fuck out because you were one of the few people that he would listen to. And if you were a real liberal, not a neoliberal, then you would have encouraged him to have an open primary. And we would have gone through that very exciting process, and people would have paid attention, and we would have gotten someone better. Probably would have gotten Newsom. And Newsom probably would have won.
Like she says that he made a patriotic, selfless decision. It's like
he took his sweet time making it.
No fucking kidding. It should have done it before
that
the
debate.
primaries.
I think that debate was on the 26th of June.
Yeah, like a month before he actually made the decision.
And then it was
out.
20 about, so it was 26 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, Trump Biden debate was on the 27th. So he went because it was July 4th, 2, 3, 4. He went 3 weeks and 3 days without and now with thinking it over.
Yeah.
He did 3 weeks and 3 days thinking it over.
And even fucking during that goddamn time, he kept on saying, like, he kept on denying that he was going to drop out. Like, he kept on,
right.
He was stubborn that entire time, publicly.
Yeah, I'm going to do the goodest job I possibly can in that interview.
So I thank him for that. I had no reason to earlier say anything to the president. I would have wished that they had, in the first 2 years of the president's term, been more out there about what we had accomplished. The rescue package, money in people's pockets, shots in their arms, people back to work, children safely back to school, the Biden child tax credit, all those things. There would have been more presentation of that. I was not asking the president to step aside. What I was asking the president to do is to have the campaign be more clear.
Do you think he should have ever run for a second term?
Well, that's a whole other conversation. The decisions that people make. I just say this. The president is the president. The candidates for president have their campaigns. But we, as the rest of us, have to mobilize at the grassroots level to own the ground so they win. We have to have a message that has clarity and unity to it and not divisiveness.
Okay, so that's where I disagree. I don't feel the same sense of loyalty that most lefties do to the grassroots methodology. I think that with modern day media, you can cover a lot ground a lot quicker with modern day communication tools. And yes, we want to hit the ground running and have grassroots or whatever, but I think that means having really good surrogates. I think that means having people who are working the media for you when you're not working it yourself. And that's one thing that Kamala had never demonstrated an ability to do, was work the media. It always felt like they were working her.
Yeah, exactly. It just goes back to leadership skills. She just didn't have it. Yeah.
Yep.
Just in terms of alienating people. And third, the money to get the job done. We did all that we needed to do to win the House as well as the White House. It's up to the candidate for president to make his or her own decision about timing, policy.
Do you think the timing hobbled Kamala Harris? Because she had 100 days to get a campaign off the ground, to mobilize people, to get her message across, to get herself known. I mean, this was an incredibly truncated campaign, and many people think that maybe she was set up to fail just by the timeline alone.
Oh, I don't think she was set up to fail. But let me just say this. We're only a couple of days
since the election. It could have been 25% longer.
There'll be many reviews of timing and
the strength of the GOP's.
God, you could have had 20% more time. I mean,
right there, yeah.
The rest of us have to mobilize at the grassroots level to own the ground so they win. We have to have a message that has clarity and unity to it and not divisiveness just in terms of alienating people. And third, the money to get the job done. We did all that we needed to do to win the House as well as the White House. It's up to the candidate for president to make his or her own decision about timing, policy.
Do you think the timing hobbled Kamala Harris? Because she had 100 days to get a campaign off the ground, to mobilize people, to get her message across, to get herself known. I mean, this was an incredibly truncated campaign, and many people think that maybe she was set up to fail just by the timeline alone.
Oh, I don't think she was set up to fail. But let me just say this. We're only a couple of days since the election. There will be many reviews of timing and the who, what, when, and why, and where as we go forward. And books will be written about it. The fact is, she did a great job.
You know why it's important to reflect on an election actually pretty close to when the election took place? Is because you remember the strategy that they used to down the home stretch towards Election Day. You remember what they were prioritizing, what they were highlighting in their rhetoric. And we progressives are never going to forget that Kamala Harris did not play to us after the convention.
Yeah.
That's a huge no-no. 7 million votes. Pretty sure that was the progressive base.
With the time constraint that she had. Had the president gotten out sooner, there may have been other candidates in the race. Kamala, I think, still would have won, but she may have been stronger, having taken her case to the public sooner.
You've talked about your interest in having had an open primary.
Yeah.
And as you know, it would have uncovered her weaknesses, her strengths. It would have tested her electability. That's what the primary system is intended to do.
Primary.
And it would have also perhaps resulted in a nominee that wasn't so
which you didn't even make it to.
Tied to an unpopular president.
Well, it's interesting that you say those things. I don't think that any review of the election should be predicated on weaknesses, but strengths of Kamala Harris.
What? What the fuck is she? Do you know how to compete? Do you know how to compete?
Oh my God.
She gave people hope, should be predicated on weaknesses, but strengths of Kamala Harris. She gave people hope.
You want to know what her weaknesses are so that the next candidate you pick doesn't have those same weaknesses.
Focus on her strengths when she fucking wins. You don't focus on
Right.
like if you lose, if you fucking lose a contest like this, a contest that's
What were her
as
strengths,
big
by
as
the
this.
way?
Yeah, what fucking god damn like
Playing to her strengths, she was cute. She was camera friendly. What are we doing here?
There's a great deal of excitement in all of this.
When
It's
you
about
lose,
winning.
you
You
don't
don't
look
have
at
to
your
tell me
strengths, you look
that.
at your
But the fact
weaknesses.
is, there's a great deal of excitement in all
Listen
of
to
this.
this.
It's about winning. You don't have to tell me that. But the fact is, we're
think I
set up
do.
for what comes next.
Should there have been an open primary, though?
Well, see, we thought that there would be. It was the anticipation was that if the president were to step aside, that there would be an open primary. And as I say, Kamala may have. I think she would have done well in that and been stronger going forward. But we don't know that.
So basically, you're telling me that the Democratic Party, the party of diversity, the party of inclusivity, the party of future solutions to current problems, the party of out-of-the-box thinking, didn't have any kind of collaborative meeting sometime after the midterms to think about what 2024 would look like?
Yeah.
There's no collaboration in the DNC. Apparently, it's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And when you've got a 78-year-old guy or whatever, 80 now, who is on the verge of death and looks like it, sounds like it, maybe you should mitigate his ability to make decisions. Maybe somebody should talk to him and that can get through to him. Maybe, I don't know, his wife.
Yeah.
And you could have had a little heart-to-heart with Jill and said, look, for the greater good of the country, you got to get him out of this primary.
Yeah.
Plenty of time. You had plenty of time to get him out of the way.
The entire year. So that way, like, if he was to drop out, like, after the fucking first debate, which is what ended up happening, I mean, even by then, an open primary wouldn't have even been fucking ideal to begin with because of like the fact that like his name was already on the ballots of several states and whatnot, and like all the campaign funding would have to be it wouldn't be as easily allocated to whoever does win the open primary.
Right.
It should have fucking happened before the primaries even fucking started.
Yep.
That didn't happen. We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that really made
Another sign of a loser. These little words matter. Watch. She says, we live with what happened, not we learn from what happened.
We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that really made it almost impossible to have a primary at that time. If it had been much earlier, it would have been different. But we're not here to agonize. We're here again to organize on how we go forward. We're going to have fresh, new talent, perhaps Kamala among them. That's up to her.
What?
To go forward for the next election.
Not
But I
again,
think people need a little rest from elections
No.
right now. We're still fighting to win the House, so we're not finished with our race. But it's a pretty exciting road ahead, and time goes by
Just
quite
in a
quickly.
bubble.
I'm sympathetic to the desire to move on from what is a very difficult
like,
one.
just such a
I do,
narrow
though, feel like the
perspective.
Democratic electorate is looking for some reflection now and some understanding of how things ended up the way
She's
that they
pushing
did.
back.
And, when you look at what happened on Tuesday, you can see it in two ways. You can see that the country embraced Trump, or you can see that they rejected the Democratic Party more broadly and the Biden-Harris administration. How do you see it?
Well, I don't see the Democratic Party more broadly. We lost 2 seats in the House, and we expect to pick up some more to offset that. Right now, we're about even. So I don't think whatever you said, with all due respect, applies to the House Democrats.
You know, though, that the way that the House runs is different than you run a national campaign, right? House races are run, very locally.
Exactly.
They message specifically for their district.
Yeah.
But the brand of the Democratic Party overall seems to have been hurt this election cycle.
Losers.
Well, I think we lost the presidential election, and in many cases, our Democrats in the House ran ahead of the presidential ticket. So your branding that we all got rejected, we didn't. We're still in the fight right now, and it's going to be a very close call. I don't see it as an outright rejection of the Democratic Party. Now, I do have a discomfort level with some of the Democrats right now are saying, oh, we abandoned the working class. No, we didn't. That's who we are. We are the kitchen table working class party of America. And that's why we're close call in the House, right?
Entitlement, dude. It's just like so out of touch. It's just like, oh, well, we don't need to appeal to the working class. We represent the working class. They're with us. We actually speak to their issues and whatnot. Then why the fuck?
Data doesn't.
Why the fuck did you fucking win? God damn it! They have no
Well, they didn't.
fucking
I mean,
idea.
like the data doesn't support that.
Yeah.
Any superficial analysis of this election reveals that no, they did not talk to the white working class nearly enough.
God.
Nearly enough, because the white working class is actually pretty sharp, as are all working class citizens, where they know whether or not the government's helping them out, or whether or not they believe that the proposal for a new government is likely to help them out. And that's the big problem. I think I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's like that's that's the big problem though that we keep coming back. I keep coming back to
it's
is
this
that
language.
The American public does not believe that Democrats deliver. That's the branding branding is another word for reputation, and it's just applied to corporations and consumer products and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the brand of the DNC now is losing on the national level. I don't care about the House, Nancy. Like, great, you're going to have a razor-thin margin maybe. And now it's just a disaster at the top of the government. I mean, the executive branch, the Senate, the Supreme Court, it's all fucked.
Yeah.
And it's all fucked for our lifetime, unless we have a revolution.
Yeah, no, like...
And I don't know who the leader of that revolution is going to be, but we need one.
Just that kind of language here that in this interview from her, like, the working class is behind us. We don't have to, therefore, we don't have to change anything. We don't have to self-reflect. We don't have to change any of our strategies. We don't have to self-reflect. We don't have to look at what went wrong and how to learn from that. That's not the modus operandi of the fucking Democratic Party and the fucking elites like Pelosi. For crying out fucking loud. It's like no wonder they fucking lose. Like, they're not going to learn a goddamn thing.
Yeah, it's going to be just, we got to hold on to our hat here for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get really ugly. I mean, we're seeing sports figures do the Trump dance now.
The double hand job dance. God, dude. Put that shit in Fortnite.
It's like false god worship. I mean, it really is like a false messiah. They think he's going to come in and save the day.
God.
You fucking idiots.
Yeah.
I saw a piece recently on toxic masculinity, and it's like, yeah, I guess it is a thing after all.
No, of course. Yeah. It's not going to be pretty.
I mean, these meatheads that just are bullies. They're just fucking bullies.
That's it.
They're obsessed with competition. I remember getting into it online with some guy, not recently. This guy, Vinny Rodriguez. Let's react to one of his videos. And he's like, yeah, long story short, I said something along the lines of, yeah, you got the gun, so you got the power, right? See, you're just nothing but a bunch of babies. Like, yeah, we got the guns, which means we're in charge when things go crazy. I'm like, yeah, there you go. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, right.
All right, here, I'll let you decide what you want to see from this freaking chode. Liberal rage, white dude fail, feminist meltdown.
Let's do left wing media is dying. Let's do that one.
Where's that one? You mean Media Crash?
Media Crash, yeah.
Media Crash.
No, do you have the rating?
Yo, what's up? Liberal media is tanking, and this is following my prediction that the liberal media will entirely collapse. Let's take a look at the data right here.
Mainstream media like MSNBC and CNN are hemorrhaging viewers and destroying their businesses as people turn their backs on the outlets in record numbers following Trump's landslide victory. MSNBC's most prominent hosts also saw a collapse in ratings. MSNBC's most prominent hosts also saw a collapse in their numbers, according to Nielsen ratings. Joy Reid down 54.6%. Ari Melber down 49.6%.
Wow.
Chris Hayes down 47.2%. Alex Wagner down 43.6%. And Morning Joe down 39.6%.
Yeah.
Commentator Kevin Kosovic from conservative news outlet Human Events confirmed this, saying MSNBC is collapsing.
We're putting together the numbers right now because I've been looking at the ratings. Do you know the ratings?
Yeah, Joy Reid is down 54.6%. At the top of the list.
Oh no.
They're collapsing.
How much collapsing?
Joy Reid, I have been saying this for a long time, but she deserves to be just totally off the air. She's going to
actually,
she will literally go down below.
She's talking about Beyonce.
Her thing's gonna crash 80%
Oh man,
plus,
she got
because everybody
Beyonce.
has
Kamala
figured
got
out when
Beyonce.
They're not going to listen to them anymore.
Exodus from MSNBC
She
is
paid for
unsurprising after the bizarre
Beyonce.
commentary that has taken place over the election period, such as Joy Reid urging her viewers to shun family members who voted for Trump.
Do you recommend, just from a psychological standpoint, being around them? We got the holidays coming up.
So I love that you asked this question because, there is a push, I think just a societal norm that if somebody is your family, that they are entitled to your time. And I think the answer is absolutely not.
And Sky News host Rita Panicky exposed another bizarre
Don't have
MSNBC
a problem
commentator.
with.
Now it's time for lefties losing it. The post-election analysis is underway, and we've talked about Republicans being blessed with some of the dumbest political opponents on God's green earth. And this next lefty is no exception. Here is Vanity Fair and MSNBC's Molly Jong-Fast,
Yeah, it's owned by
blaming not
Murdochs.
just misogyny, but institutional misogyny.
I don't
And
know how you
sexy
call a
images
liberal.
for
I
Kamala's
don't know how you call the
downfall.
media liberal anymore.
leaned into a lot of the institutionalized misogyny as a way to try to neutralize her effectiveness. So she was a super effective speaker, really galvanized voters.
Did she really just say that Kamala Harris was a super effective speaker? She was one of the worst public speakers that I've ever seen. When we fight, we win. Her speeches were like talking to kindergartners.
In a really important way.
Can't disagree
and
with that.
What the Trump campaign did, and I think ultimately they were able to, was they flooded the internet with over-sexualized images of her. They spread lies about her romantic history.
That is
Yeah,
so
I mean,
completely
it's one
divorced
thing.
from reality.
Yeah,
It's unintentional.
it's one thing to fucking like criticize her as like a weak and ineffective candidate, but goddamn, just like the far right loonies and shit, just an abundance of over-sexualized images of her, sexist images and fucking statements about her and her history and whatnot. It's just like, it's just fucking gross. Is that not?
Well,
is that the
expect
fucking
it.
best
They're
you can
Republicans.
Do? Yeah,
they're
it's a- it's a-
Republicans, so expect it. They're going to break out all the stops. They will do whatever is required to win.
Yeah.
That's why they win.
Funny that she actually claimed that Kamala is a really effective speaker, the word salad queen who can't utter a coherent sentence to save herself. But Molly wasn't done yet. Listen to this bit of bat poop crazy analysis where she claims that
Correction, batshit. We say batshit over here.
Kamala's own campaign, which was hyper-focused on securing the female vote, was actually anti-women. And well, remember, he ran this Rose campaign, right? A campaign that was largely sort of anti-woman in a way. Look, it's only a matter of time before Molly joins the other crazy
She said that she ran an anti-woman campaign. I am so fucking lost.
cat ladies and
Yeah,
cutting
fucking
her hair on
attention,
camera
dude.
to
Trump
protest
did.
Trump and democracy.
The dire ratings are leading MSNBC's parent company Comcast to sell the network.
Oh.
Commentator Dave Rubin mocked the network for its ratings disaster, saying the way people consume
Gives a
media has
fuck
now
what
changed.
Dave
Yeah,
Rubin
they're actually
thinks.
listening to people that aren't full of shit now.
And joked that he would
Dave
buy
Rubin is
MSNBC.
absolutely
Live
full of
shows
shit.
for
He
our
took
hour and
Russian
50 minute
money.
show. We had 608,000 views.
Literally
on,
paid
YouTube,
for
which
by
I already
Russian
How's that
mentioned.
Russian money? How's that Russian
And
money
we
treat you,
had,
Dave?
131,000
I'm going to stick
on
that
Rumble.
in your
That's
face till the day you
almost
die.
800,000 views. That's not including any of the clips or anything else. And they would kill for those numbers. I am not, well, I guess I'm saying it as a pat on the back to my staff and that we're doing something good here.
Even
But the point is
David
the thing
Pakman called
has
out
changed.
to
And
his
there's breaking
face
news just in the
about
last half hour that NBC Comcast is planning to sell MSNBC next week. You know what? I'm going to buy it. I'll throw in, what are they selling it for? What if I bought it?
They don't need to
This guy's
sell it.
such
They
an
need to
idiot.
liquidate it. They just need to totally get rid of that network. MSNBC, that was like the core to all of this. Once that falls, the rest will follow.
MSNBC, and then I made them all work with me and do the you dance for me, lady, blonde lady. Elon, that's hilarious. Elon should buy it, put them all in a jail
that's
cell,
really,
padded
really
cell, and
funny,
just like see
dude.
what happens.
I'm-
How much could they possibly be selling that worthless piece of shit
cackling
for?
over here.
I'll throw in 500 grand. 500 grand, I'll buy MSNBC. Like, all right, why not? Let's see what happens.
And it's not only MSNBC that is suffering a rating slump. CNN is reportedly looking to offload hundreds of staff members, including some of their biggest stars, as they struggle to keep the lights on.
Yeah,
as
it
ratings
turns out
tank.
placating
Commentator
to
Charlie
the
Kirk said,
right
"Breaking,
doesn't
CNN to
fucking
fire
pay
stars."
off.
Hundreds of staff as the network's ratings continue to tank. And this commentator said Comcast is putting MSNBC up for sale. CNN just announced massive layoffs coming.
Wow.
Maybe the new owners will figure out that lying nonstop to your audience is a lousy business model. But it
And look what the lying has done. You've seen these people that have been reacting that I have on my channel to the victory of Donald Trump, how insane they are. It's the media's fault, man. These people don't really think for themselves, and that's okay, I guess, to some extent. But you have to hold the media accountable. There's going to be a huge shift, and it's happening already.
It seems as though some hosts on CNN are
Well,
struggling to take
there's a
responsibility.
difference between
You think this guy knows what the 1996 Telecom Act was?
no, not a fucking, not a chance, not a chance. I mean, there's a difference between holding the media accountable and criticizing them for not having a right-wing enough bias to where like it appeals to the fucking types of Republican voters that will share over-sexualized memes of Kamala Harris on the internet. Like, give me a break.
Yeah.
But I want to recognize that for all the flaws of the mainstream media, and we have a lot of them, it's not just the media's fault that trust has been declining for decades. It's also decades of attacks by politicians.
That is the main issue, is that, like, I mean, yeah, it could be that the Washington Post is endorsing candidates. Or
So
it
that's
could
the
be,
bitch. That's the bitch right there that tried to help Liz Warren make Bernie Sanders look like a sexist.
Really?
During live on the debate, yeah. She asked Bernie about it, and then Bernie responded.
Oh yeah.
And then she went to Liz Warren and she said, "Senator, what was your response when Senator Sanders said that to you? As if he just
wasn't
didn't
even there.
Say. Well,
That
he
didn't
claimed
happen.
he didn't say it.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I didn't say it, dude. The idea that Bernie Sanders is a sexist is ridiculous. He was trying to get Liz Warren to run for office against Hillary Clinton in 1996 or 2016.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, holy fucking shit, dude.
That there are millions of voters who believe lying politicians who tell them lies, knowing that they are. I mean, that could be the problem too.
The politicians on the left, they are the media. I mean, they're all interconnected. They're the ones that are all lying or that have been.
Australian's associate editor Graham Lloyd says the media have been fed a dose of humble pie after Trump's decisive victory.
Now, Graham, a really great article in The Australian from your colleague Chris Mitchell today. He writes that the American media became activists against Trump and that left them unable to read the situation well. But this part in particular was great. It said the left liberal US media got Trump and the electorate wrong for 9 years, but last week showed little sign of understanding why. This column was reminded of the sullen faces of the ABC on election night in 2019 when Liberal leader Scott Morrison beat Labor's Bill Shorten. Graham, what is it about, particularly the lefty media? Why do they always misread the play?
Because they have to follow a narrative, okay? That's what this whole thing is about. They have to stick to their narrative. It's not them really even misreading it. It's about them holding and captivating their audience based on their narrative.
What is the narrative?
Which is in conflict with reality. And we saw it happen.
Well, it's the echo
But I love this guy.
Yeah,
So he just said, what is the narrative? So what is the narrative that they, define it.
Yeah.
Like, this is the problem with independent media is people aren't educated, so they don't understand the fundamentals of human communication.
No.
And when you're trying to make an argument, when you're trying to make a point, specificity rarely pays off. So if you know the details, this is something Kalinski's good at, where it's like, oh, what are we going to do? Well, here's the 10 things that I would do if I were in power.
Yes.
Like, have them ready to go. Have the lists ready to go.
Yeah. It's
you
like,
know, student loan debt relief, free the nonviolent criminals. You know, no cash bail, you know, like more humane immigration practices.
Yeah, like what does this guy think? Like
a million different things.
What does this guy think the through line is? Like when you say narrative, you can't just be vague about it. I mean, if you ask any of these just right wingers on them and whatnot, it's like, okay, so what is the narrative?
Right, what is the narrative? They don't know.
It's like,
he doesn't know.
Like, oh, you know, I mean, Marxism.
Right.
Communism.
Socialism. Right.
God, dude.
So if you never speak to anybody who doesn't share your view, you are absolutely astonished when you're presented with the fact that most people actually don't agree with you. I think the first Trump presidency showed how disconnected the media was from what was really happening out in mainstream America.
Except he lost the popular vote by 2.7 million votes. So it wasn't a mandate or an expression of our country's will at the time. It was actually a rejection of the country's will because of our electoral college.
Yes.
Do you know what the electoral college is, Mr. Aussie?
America. They didn't learn that lesson. They didn't reconnect with America. They just set about demonising Donald Trump. And I think they've been fed another dose of humble pie. Whether they will bring themselves to acknowledge it this time, only time will tell.
That's what happened. That's why the Kamala Harris campaign failed, is because they were basically just remarketing to their own people like 24/7. They were unable to capture the minds of other voters because they were so focused on hating Donald Trump. And that's why they lost. If you haven't seen the other videos on my channel, check them out, especially this playlist. This playlist has been hot lately, and we will see everyone on the next video.
What an asshole.
Well, it wasn't so much about hating Donald Trump as it was like just repeating what Donald Trump has been saying and campaigning on. Like,
yeah.
Like that's it. Like, honestly, like you can hate him for that based on like what they tell you, but like they didn't campaign on hate for him. They campaigned on holding him accountable for his words and like what he would do, like the way, like how he would affect the future of this country and
right.
its people. God, I mean, fucking just sheer dishonesty, honestly.
I don't think he's wrong about the media and the DNC following a narrative. He just doesn't define it as the anybody but Trump narrative, which is the same mistake that Hillary made. See, we offer insight. We actually connect the dots. We don't just show you the dots. We show you how they interrelate with one another.
Bingo.
So if you want to go listen to Vinny Rodriguez and get some fucking guinea douchebag who doesn't know shit about politics, and be my guest.
Yeah.
But you want to be part of the revolution, you stick around here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a market, like, and there has been, I mean, since the advent of Trump, for just reactionary content. You know, just
people who talk like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. As long as like you make sure to iterate to your audience, oh, left bad, or like, gosh, isn't everybody just so mean to Trump? What the hell? These people are obsessed. It's Trump derangement syndrome. These crazy liberals, wacky, let's trigger the libs. It's just like endless junk food, and there's just so many fucking personalities like that, and they fucking, I mean, there's a market for it, and it's also where a whole lot of fucking money is, like right-wing media apparatus, because as we've spoken about before.
Well, we will be back Thursday. We're going to be with the Progressive American, Connor, and he will be back joining us. We got to watch our language, and that'll be really fun because he's a great guy. He knows the game. He knows the party. Mm-hmm. He knows how the ground games work, and I'm sure he was probably more devastated than either of us by Kamala losing. I think he was. I think he was pretty optimistic too. So, anyway, I am Dieter McBusiness for StatPat Stateless Patriot. We are reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
See you guys in a couple of days. Thank you for joining.